What? Rob's looking at something that's actually kind of new? My goodness. I'm not on camera, but I'm doing a sarcastic hand-over-the-mouth surprise expression. Because that makes sense. Anyway, as you can tell, today we are taking a look at Transformers Studio Series, whatever number this is, War for Cybertron, Optimus Prime. And I do have some things to say about this guy, but sorry, I bumped the microphone. But before we say anything more about this toy in particular, just want to make a quick mention of the fact that I do have a Patreon. For anyone who is interested in supporting the channel, I have a single tier. It's the only one that's available. It is $1, just supports the channel and it gets you early access to videos. So if you want to support the channel via money, that is an option, and it'll get you early access to videos. In addition, if you would rather support the channel in a way that doesn't require spending any money, there is a link down in the description to a Discord server for a website called ShowZ. It is an overseas toys. I'm blanking on words now. An overseas toy selling website. I buy a lot of third-party figures from them, but they do have other things, some official stuff, some not. Usually have really good prices. Shipping to the US, in my experience, is pretty much free unless you want to pay for slightly faster shipping. Not that I think it's necessary, because it's usually, even the free shipping is usually within like a couple of weeks that it arrives. But great place, wonderful customer service. They do some fun stuff over on the Discord, including live streams that I've sometimes taken part in. But yeah, if you join the Discord using that link in the description, it earns me 50 points in what is basically store credits. And that can, over time, with enough of it, go towards me buying more figures that I can then do videos on. So if you are so inclined, you can join the Discord using that link, and that will help me out. With all of that out of the way, Gamer Optimus Prime. I used to write about games that I hate that word, but anyway, yeah, this Optimus Prime is cool. Once upon a time, I did own the Generations version of War for Cybertron Optimus Prime, and it's a neat figure. Though there are certain things about it that when I've seen photos and videos, I don't actually own it anymore, as I said, but like seeing this next to that, yeah, this robot mode is much more appealing to me. Also, the transformation on this is much more appealing to me because it's a little bit simpler, but also very effective, so it's not quite as time-consuming, I guess, is the best way to put it. Now, before we start talking about the vehicle proper, as you can see, I've got the weapons stored up here, and I hate this. I absolutely hate this. So I'm just going to pop this off. The axe, there's this kind of groove section right in here that pegs over these two tabs on top of the gun, so that's how that sits, and that looks terrible. So this is just going to go off to the side for now. And this, I think, looks better. I just don't like this gun, which we'll get to more in robot mode. But yeah, this tabs into the back. There are these two slots here and these two tabs here, and those plug in, and that stores there. And I do think the storage is nice for what it is, but I also don't really, strictly speaking, think it's necessary. And personally, which I'll get into why when we get to the robot mode, I just am not going to use this gun outside of this video. Once this is done, this is going in the accessories box and staying there. But the problem with that is, without the gun, the only way to peg the axe in anywhere is to peg it in here. So you can do like that, or you can peg it in here, and that looks not great. This bit actually comes into, can pop into multiple pieces, so you can, if you really wanted to, switch it around like this. and peg the axe in this way, so it's a little bit further back, which is not as terrible, but it's still not great. So you've got options, which again, we will explore more when we get to the robot mode, but as far as storage goes, weapon storage on Prime is a bit of a disappointment, which is a shame because Bumblebee, who we'll be looking at next time around, has much better weapon storage. Like, he's even got a thing on the underside. It comes with 3 accessories and they all store in vehicle mode. Wish you could say the same about the robot mode, but we'll get to that in the next video. Now, as for the vehicle itself, I think it looks great. I love the weird contours of it, how it's like, it almost reminds me of like G1 Springer in a way, where it's like this boxy, somewhat thinner looking rear and this really big battering ram slope of a front. Just in the general sense, not saying it actually looks like Springer, just reminds me of it. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. But it looks cool, and it's suitable Optimus Prime colors with the red and the blue. The color matching red on this bit here is not great, but it's okay. It gets the job done. I do, though, appreciate the fact that they painted the rims on the wheels silver and did the edges around the rims in red. That's pretty cool. I am inclined, I kind of want to go in and do like pink panel lining in here and do some like other touch-ups to add just a little bit more color to make it more accurate to the game, but what's here is good. Like the detailing in the front, the silver, the wheels, it's all good. There's just not a lot of paint up and back here, which doesn't really bother me. Now there is, yes, I know, everyone's like, oh no, you see fists in the back, this toy is trash. That is objectively incorrect for one thing. But yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. Like, we're not actually playing the video game. You're not going to be looking at the figure from this angle all of the time because you're not, it's not in third person, you're not driving. You're looking at it mostly probably like this, and this looks good. This is who cares. Also, there's the point that many people have made where this is a Cybertronian alt mode. He's not in disguise, he is in fast travel mode. He's not going to fool anyone because there's no need to. That's not what it's about when it's Cybertronian. So who cares if you can see the fists? It doesn't break the illusion because he's not trying to make, like, there is no illusion here. Did not expect to go on that much of a rant about it, sorry. But yeah, it's fine. And it's actually a really interesting and, as I said, surprisingly simple transformation on this guy. But he's neat. I also really think it's kind of cute how he's got these little tiny angled smokestacks in the back, like little ears. But yes, I like this. The detailing is pretty nice all the way around, and there's some really interesting stuff with the transformation, which we will get into when we actually look at the transformation. But until we do that, we have to see how this guy literally measures up to some of his contemporaries, or semi-contemporaries in the case of Artfire and Rotor Storm, who for some reason I'm only just now realizing, like it never even occurred to me, but both Artfire and Rotor Storm are actually Generation Selects figures. I don't know why I never put that together. And there's Samus. And I forgot to transform Burnout back into her vehicle mode from the last video. So I'm going to do that really quick. But I'm doing it all off camera, and also going to actually do a quick edit, which is going to mean that this is probably not going to edit the video at all, unless I do this really, really fast. But yeah, it's going to be one of the handful of edits that I do now, because as I've mentioned in previous videos, I'm just kind of done with the overly complex editing for the time being, because I just don't have the time, and not enough people care about these videos for me to put in that level of effort, especially for something that I'm just doing as a hobby. So yeah, this is most likely going to get cut. There we go. There's Burnout. So yeah, there you can see how this Voyager class Optimus Prime stacks up, and that's a pretty beefy looking truck in terms of overall just size. Mass wise, it's not super beefy. Like, he is heavy and dense, but like he's not, you know, like there's some open air in here. So yeah, it's still, he spreads out nicely, I guess, let's put it that way. So there is all of that. And I guess just because we saw it earlier, let's bring in Studio Series 01 War for Cybertron Bumblebee, so you can see how those two stack up. And this is a bit of a spoiler for the video on Bumblebee, but despite my initial misgivings about the robot mode, which I think a lot of people had, I actually really like this little guy. So yeah, Bumblebee is great. And because it's what you all come here to see, here is Prime with the duck tank. And I just realized it's kind of silly for me to say I used to write about games, because I still do. I wrote a review for Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom just like a week ago. Anyway, a week ago as of this recording. But anyway, now it is time to transform Studio Series whatever Optimus Prime. And this is a really cool transformation. It's not super complex or anything like that. Some may argue it's a little too simple for the Voyager price point. I don't really care, but I think it's a pretty neat and effective transformation. So to start, I'm going to pop these side panels out, and you can see clearly where they are, also because the red doesn't match, but pop these out and they peg in down here and also up here. So I want to pop that out and swing it out to the side. Not all the way back, just out. And now we can unpeg the arms from the backs of what will become the legs. They're pegged in kind of up here. So just pull that out. And you can kind of see the tabs. You can kind of see little slots. And of course, this bit folds back. Don't want to forget that. And with that folded out of the way, we can move those up. And with those moved up, we can unpeg the arms and just swing them on this gray joint here, out and around, and swing these around, and just get them out of the way so that we can rotate, do this on camera, so we can rotate the waist around and straighten out the legs. Now this is where some of the really cool stuff comes in. I'm going to split the legs apart and also split this flap apart. This section here folds out to become the foot. This top of the flap folds around and actually plugs in here, and that creates the front of the leg, and that's really cool. And now the wheels rotate in and just kind of softly click in back there. This flap folds down and pegs in, and the smokestack thingy folds back. And again, fold this down and peg it in. I love this. This is a great little idea for the transformation. Fold that around, tap that in, fold that back, and there's legs are done. Very simple, very straightforward, and very clever. Now for the upper body, I'm going to pull these two bits here off to the side. They peg in here and back here. So pull here and untab there. You can see where it tabs in there, and untab it in there. Same deal on this side. And this requires a little bit of flexing, but it's not a problem. It's just you want to get these kind of out to the side so you can get this bumper section past these tips here. So just bring those around and you're good. This comes back and rotates around, and I'll just sit down for now. This section here rotates up here, and this will plug in right here. So get that moving, swing it down, and plug that in. And to just tilt the head up. Now, these sections rotate backwards like this. This section comes up and also accordions down. So you want to fold it up and in like that. And these little grooves here, these bits will actually sit in when you push them in. So you push these in and they will slide in, and they will also plug in right up here. And this just sits back like that. And that gives us our Studio Series Optimus Prime. With, also the fists, turn the fists. You don't have to turn them for the vehicle mode. I just like to do it because it makes them slightly less obvious. But there we go. There is the big old beefcake that is War for Cybertron Optimus Prime. And this is a really cool Optimus Prime. I have some minor issues with the robot mode. Primarily it has to do with the weapons, but the one thing that I'm a little bit on with this robot mode is the frame of the shoulders. The arms, for my liking, they come out just a little too far. I kind of wish there was a way to just push these in just a little bit. Like these gray bits, if they could just slide in a little bit to bring the shoulders a little bit closer to the center of the body, I think that would be nice. But it's a small thing. Not a major problem or anything like that. I think it's fine. It's just something that stands out to me. But yeah, this guy is really, really cool. I love that transformation. He even cleans up surprisingly well. Backs of legs, maybe a little messy, but doesn't really bother me. I kind of think it would have been cooler if instead of flipping 180 degrees, if the wheels actually accordioned in and you'd had them like sitting kind of like this, but up against the back of the leg. I'm assuming they didn't do that because 1, accuracy, and 2, it would require more parts. But that's just a thing that I would have liked. And also, those wheels, surprisingly, don't really get in the way of the knee bend. So, that's cool. Yeah. There is one other thing that kind of is a little off proportionally with this guy. Because of these bits that slide in, like these bits here, it bulks out his chest a little too much. I've seen some people do like they paint these sections, like they paint them in black. Like these bits here, just right in here, this bit. Like this specific bit, not here, but just here. Paint that black, and from what I've seen in photos, it actually looks pretty good, so I might try doing that myself, both because it'll give him a very slightly slimmer profile, because it'll at least separate it color-wise from his actual chest, and also it might just add some nice visual interest. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that's going on here could use just a little bit more. Like, from what I've seen looking up reference photos and stuff, the coloring on this guy is pretty spot on. He just needs a little bit of pink in some places for, like, the lining and highlights and stuff. Some added detail in the knees, that kind of thing. Like, the details are there. They're just not painted. But that's fine. And really, I think what you get here is pretty cool. Like, yeah, there's not a ton of paint, but what's here works. Like, they painted the shin silver. I think that's kind of necessary. I love that they did the pink in the waist section because that definitely would have been a little too plain if they left that gray. So this is all gray from like the thighs to the midriff section, but having just that little bit of extra color there does make a difference. And the silver in here is really nice, though you do kind of need it also for the vehicle mode, at least the not really chest windows, but these bits that evoke the chest windows. And that's pretty, aside from the face, that's pretty much it for the paint. You got the Autobot logos on the shoulders, and that's it. And the rest is just plastic. And yeah, it's cool. I don't know. I like it. I like the Beefcake Prime. As I said, his shoulders are spaced a little too far apart for my liking, but it's not like a, ooh, I don't like it. It's just, it's noticeable. Now, what to talk about next? Well, we typically do articulation before accessories. So before we jump to all of that, we should talk about the thing he does that every other Prime does that I'm kind of like, but everyone else seems to love. He does have a matrix. You open this up, and yay, matrix. And it looks like this section in here is painted, so there goes some of that paint budget. The matrix is removable, and it is also painted, so again, there goes some of that paint budget. It looks good for what it is. It is kind of ridiculous because you can't hold it. There's just no way. But it's there, so yay for the people who like this kind of stuff, I guess. I just feel like... Pardon me. I just feel like for the amount of parts and paint that went into this, that I think that would have been better spent elsewhere. We don't need a matrix like this for every single Prime. I know everyone loves it, and I'm like the only person who feels this way, but it's... I just feel like the extra parts and paint would have been better served elsewhere. Now, as for his Optimus Prime noggin, it is, from what I understand, very War for Cybertron Optimus Prime, with like the longer or taller ears, the kind of more aggressively angled faceplate, and aggressively angled head crest. It's simple in terms of paint, where it's just like silver for the faceplate and face and like head crest and like blue for the eyes, and the rest is just blue plastic, but I think it works. And they didn't do that thing I hate where they do like light piping in the back for no reason. So I also appreciate that, and I'm totally fine with the no light piping because I'm not really into the light piping, but I know some people are and they're probably disappointed, and to you, I'm sorry. But I'm fine with this. And I think the sculpt is good. I think the paint is good. I also, for some reason, really like these little angles they added to the faceplate, just these little lines in there. It just makes him look a little bit, I don't know, more serious, which I guess is saying something about Optimus Prime. Then, as you can see, the head is on a ball joint, so you get a little bit of back and forth, kind of, not really, and up and down, mostly up. Also, that's mostly for the transformation, but you get that, and you get the 360-degree spin. The arms can rotate all the way around, and I should zoom out for this. They can go out. They kind of stop here just because of like the way the transformation works, but they do go further, and that's because when you push them out like that, this is kind of the transformation position. So they kind of lock in this position, and then this is like the unlocked position where you can more freely move them. You get a 90, slightly more than 90-degree elbow bend, and of course you get a bicep swivel, and as we saw before, you get a wrist swivel. And you also, because of the nature of the transformation, can use this joint that was used to bring the arms into the transformation. You can use it as a butterfly joint. It's not great because this kind of butts into the chest plate, but you can pull this out to get more. So if you really wanted to, you could bring the arms forward like that, but you'd have to pull this way out. But still, the joint is there, and it does work. You get a waist rotation that I believe can go all the way around. Yep, it can go all the way around, so you don't have to worry about that. The hips can go forward past 90, but they do that thing where the joint for hinging is actually towards the front. So it's great for kicking forward, not so much for kicking back. This is actually as far back as the hip wants to go. It does not want to go any further back, so you basically get no back kick. You can go out all the way, which is pretty nice. Get a thigh rotation, and then as we saw before, you get a pretty much 90 degree, like slightly under 90 degree knee bend. even with the wheels there, that's impressive. Now, if we move those wheels out of the way, does that make a difference? Kind of. If we move the wheels all the way out of the way. Okay, so if you move the wheels all the way out, you can actually get a little bit past 90. And it gives him a knee cannon opening, I guess. I don't know. It's an option. I feel like you get plenty of knee bend without having to do all of that, but hey, it's there if you want it. And the feet do tilt, the ankles do tilt. You get some backwards motion because of the transformation, but no forward motion, unfortunately. I really wish that this didn't block it off like that, because you can get some forward tilt with that shin plate out of the way, and that would be great for posing, but you just can't do it with that pegged in. It just keeps the foot from going forward anymore, which is a shame, but I still really like this. I love when figures do transformation tricks that basically like turn stuff inside out to create, hide, or reveal new details. And that is it for Prime's articulation. As for the accessories, he has, as we saw before, the axe and the gun. And the axe can fold up. I believe some people were saying, as far as like the game goes, this is when he's holding it, and then when he's actually swinging it is when it splits open into this double-sided axe thing. And that's fine. I kind of think it looks cooler like this just because I'm into the asymmetry, but either way works. And as I showed before, this can pull apart into two different pieces for the handles, so you can have this on the bottom, you can have this on the bottom. It's up to you. It's whatever you want to do. Or if you really wanted to, you could just do one and have it be a shorter axe. Keep the longer axe. You've got options. Unfortunately, what you don't have options for is weapon storage. This axe cannot store anywhere on Prime. Like, you can, like, put it up there if you want, but that's not storage. Like, there's no thing. You can't, like, the peg hole on his butt isn't even the right size for this. The peg hole in his forearms is not the right size for any of this. The peg hole on the inside of his bicep isn't actually a peg hole. It's just a void, so that's not... Yeah, you can't even do that. There is nowhere, as far as I know at least, there's nowhere to store the axe. He has to hold the axe, and that's the best you can do. Not a terrible problem, and I do intend to keep the axe around because I think he looks cooler with the axe. Bigger problem is this thing. There is no place to store this thing. And that bugs the crap out of me because there's no place to store it, and he also can't hold it. Because if you're familiar with the War for Cybertron Studio Series line, the gimmick for these figures is they don't hold their guns, their forearms turn into the guns. So you actually unplug the forearm and then take the gun and plug that into where the forearm was. So then he has a arm that's a gun. I don't mind the idea of this, but there are some problems with this. First off, you're left with a fist that if you really want, you can come back around here and plug into his butt. And that's how it's supposed to store. So he'll just have an arm hanging off of his butt. Okay. That's the only place that you can really store this thing. Like, it's not going to store here or anything like that. So yeah, that's all you can do to store the gun or to store the arm. And because of this gimmick, he doesn't actually, like, he can't hold the gun normally. Because he can't hold the gun normally, there's also nowhere to store it. So basically, if you want to keep the gun with Prime, the only way to utilize it is to replace his forearm with it. Or you can do what you did for the vehicle mode storage by unfolding the axe and just tabbing the gun in, and now the axe has this thing sticking on it. And that's terrible. I don't like this. It looks fine when it replaces the forearm, but like there needs to be better storage for the gun or for the forearm when it's not in use, and there is no storage for this guy's forearm when he's doing the weapon thing. It's just it's really frustrating because they so could have put like there's some kind of storage, anything. This thing is covered in tabs and peg holes and voids that could potentially work for pegs, and none of it works. I've tried. You'd think maybe these will plug into these slots back here, but nope, that doesn't work. They are not the right size, and also the gun barrel would be poking the back of his head. There's this opening on the back here. That seems like it should do something, but it doesn't. You can kind of like rest the gun up here, but it doesn't attach anywhere either. Like this could have so easily just pegged over the space here if the spacing was slightly different. These could so easily tab in somewhere if there was just a place for it. And I was thinking, oh, maybe you can tab this into here. You cannot, because it's not the right size. It is too wide going this way and too narrow going this way, so it doesn't hold well and it doesn't go in all the way anyway. It doesn't even go in that way. You'd think maybe here, but no, it doesn't peg in there either. I was hoping maybe that the gun would be able to kind of sandwich around this tab, but no, there's not enough space. And that's what really annoys me about all of this. There are so many ways that this could have stored, and it just doesn't. It just required a tiny bit of adjustment in terms of like where some of this stuff is, and it's just not there. And that really bugs the crap out of me that the only place to store this in robot mode is to use it to replace his arm. That's not cool. But for the sake of the rest of the video, because we always got to arm him up with his accessories, we're going to do the weapon switch thing. So plug his arm into... Oh, actually, before I do that, I do want to acknowledge the fact that out of the box, as with virtually every copy of this guy, the forearm came off way too easily. You may notice I have not had that problem. That's because I did a little bit of modification. Really simple stuff. I used floor polish and did the thing where I went in and put a little bit of floor polish in the peg hole there and just let it sit for about 24 hours just in the peg hole. Didn't reconnect it or anything. The reason I did that was because I didn't want to thicken up the peg here. I just wanted to thicken up the peg hole here. So once that's set, put it on and it holds a lot better. Like you can see, I can actually pick him up by the forearm and it doesn't come out. Like, I don't even think, yeah, that didn't even shake loose. Let's see if we do something a little bit more extreme here. Hang on, I'm curious. So straight up and down, oh, there it goes. Okay, took some doing. So he can still get jostled loose, but that's, you know, if you're not violently shaking him from the peg, that works really well. So that keeps the forearm attached. And as I said, the main reason for doing it that way is because that wouldn't thicken up the peg, because the peg itself works just fine for the gun. So I didn't want to make it so that the gun wouldn't fit on. I just wanted to make it so that the fist would stop popping off. But yeah, I just am so... I really like this figure. I do. I'm very glad I got it. I'm really crossing my fingers that we get a Generation Selects Nemesis Prime repaint of this. I'm not holding my breath. I'm just crossing my fingers. But, yeah, I'm just disappointed that they did that and didn't give any proper storage or anything, because that sucks. But it is what it is. And as I said, like, these are cool Prime. It's very, very cool. I love the beefiness. I love the design. And I even think, like, the gun as a concept is cool. I think it looks neat for what it is. I just don't think it was handled great. I think that they really should have done something else with the forearm storage and, you know, actually allow you to store the gun in robot mode, because they let you store the gun in robot mode on Bumblebee. You can't store the arm, but you can store the gun. I don't know why they did that. Anyway, bringing in the usual suspects here, you can see that Studio Series whatever Optimus Prime is, he's a little short when compared to a regular Voyager. He's just a little bit shorter than Artfire. I can't necessarily say he's beefier either. Like, he's wider, he looks chunkier, but mass-wise, he feels about the same. Maybe even a tiny bit lighter. I don't know. Not complaining, just noticing. And that's fine. I think, you know, what he does, what he is, it's fine. But as I also said, I can acknowledge the fact that he just doesn't seem to have the Voyager level complexity and engineering for the transformation, but at the same time, that transformation is really clever in places. So, not a complaint, just an observation. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Put him next to the duck tank. And that does it for Studio Series number whatever War for Cybertron Optimus Prime. And, you know, I'm just going to echo what a lot of people say. This figure is great. I honestly prefer this over the Generations version that we got. I understand why people might prefer that one. You know, it's got more going on. It's a little bit smaller. I think it was a deluxe, isn't it? Yeah, it was a deluxe. But like, it's also a little bit denser, has more parts, has more paint. There's fewer gaps, let's say. But it's also kind of a more involved thing to transform, and that's... I don't hate it or anything like that. I don't even dislike it, but, you know, this guy's fun and interesting to transform. I don't really think I could say the same about the Generations version. For me, anyway. Also, I just think this guy looks better. Like, the Generations one, it looks good for what it is, but it just... certain things about its proportions and overall design elements just make it look like a toy that's going on, what, 10 years old now? Maybe not quite, but like up there. Whereas this, you know, this looks like the more refined version. It feels like the more refined version of that character. So I'm cool with it. My only real gripe is what they did with the weapons. That sucks. Really wish there was a way to store the axe and a way to store the gun in robot mode. But this is what we got. But that is enough about what I think of this. What do you all think of whatever War for Cybertron Optimus Prime? And, you know, I'm curious if I'm the only one who thinks this trumps the other figure or not, because I'm sure there are people who are going to disagree with me. And I'm not saying the other figure is bad, just that I think this one kind of captures the look a little bit better and also does so at a, you know, more manageable and, in my mind, more clever transformation. But whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I still don't have a proper outro, so Bumblebee next time, as I've said multiple times throughout this video. Bye!